A pleasure and an honor to have you in Mining Zone CNBC Indonesia. So if we're seeing the trend of coal prices in this first half of semester 2023, there has been quite a normalization of price. So what we have in an anomaly price in 2022, which it reaches and skyrocketed to $400. How do you see it, and how does it affect the performance of Bumi generally?
Well, 2022 was a very unusual year, with far too many factors impacting geopolitically, socially, and economy-wise. So it can be viewed as a very unusual year.
Yeah.
It is unlikely to be repeated again. So we saw a lot of movement last year. If you look at 2016, the coal prices had dropped to $48 per ton. Now, today's prices, which are on benchmark $150, are still about 3 times higher than what they were in 2016. Now, when we look at coal prices in the second half of this year versus the first half, it does appear that the prices are in contango. And quarter 3 and quarter 4 prices are showing indications of rising. They could be in the region of, as some forecasters have indicated, it could be anywhere between $165 to $185, which is actually quite good for the sector.
Right, Dileep. Thank you so much for your short, brief review about it. And still on the coal prices, we see that on this very recent days, coal prices continue to climb, reaching the $150-ish at the level. And the increase in coal prices this time was actually supported by the heat wave that hit Asia and Europe, especially El Niño's wave. How do you see it? And does it benefit Bumi in this very recent time?
Well, the heat waves have been very high in China. They've been very high in Japan. They've been extremely high in India. So yes, there was an increase in power demand in all these places. China had high stocks of coal, which are still reasonably comfortable. India is producing more coal, so their stocks are comfortable too. So their imports are not as strong as they were in previous years. But we are hoping that with the monsoons and flooding in India, which has restricted transportation and supplies, and now that China is back with milder weather, we think the hydropower production will increase as well. But they have, as I said, enough stock. And they are importing from Russia as well. So I have a feeling that we'll have to wait till quarter 4 until the winter truly sets in. If it is very severe, then of course there would be a run on coal, and that could lead to a higher demand on price, pressure on price.
Right. Now, Dileep, beside the coal prices normalization, can you give us some elaboration and some review about the obstacles and challenge that Bumi faced in the first half of 2023, and it affects some sort of slowing down of Bumi's performance a bit in the first half of 2023, not only the coal prices normalization?
Well, the coal prices have dropped last year versus this year in the first half by about 16%. So $111 per ton that we got in the first half of last year has dropped to the early 90s. And if we look forward to the second half of this year, there's a good chance that it will drop further. A fair amount depends on what kind of mix is sold. If we sell more domestically, the average price will come down.
Yeah.
And if we sell a mix which is more low to medium ranked, again, the price can be a bit different. But we are not really looking at those factors. From our side, we are seeing full year 23 at a volume of 75 to 80 million tons. I would suspect it would be halfway between that.
Right.
But even if it is 77, 78, we would be comparing it with 70 million tons of 2022 first half. So we should still be roughly about 10% higher than last year on volume.
Okay.
which to an extent makes up for lower revenue.
Still, there's a lot of optimism as you're speaking right there. So do you see that the decline in coal prices since this last year started to weigh on the company's performance? Or do you see it from the other side of coin? You still can increase the volume of sales until the end of semester 2, 2023.
We think that if we have done 35 million tons in the first semester, we should do about 40 to 45 million tons in the second semester.
Right.
So yes, we see an uptick in volume. And there is the current talk that there is El Nino and drier weather, so that should also help with increasing output. But I think the issue mainly is market factors. And when you talked about what are the factors that have impacted performance in Bumi in the first half and likely to impact in the second half,
Yeah.
I think the first point to make is that the prices were lower, so gross revenue is far lower. The second one is that the royalty rates have increased from last year for us. 13.5% has gone up to 28% on exports,
Right.
which is a significant burden. And 13.5% has gone up to 14% for domestic, in spite of we giving subsidized control prices to PLN and to the fertilizer and cement industry.
Right.
Now, all these actually impact our costs.
Okay.
And if we are looking at all the levies that we pay to the government, whether it is corporate taxes, whether it is profit sharing of 10% of net income with the regional and central government, whether it is the extra royalty that we pay, the subsidized price to PLN, and as the HBA price has been higher than the international price, we also pay additional royalty on the difference. So if we are doing a fair sum, a computation, I would say between 40 and 45% of the gross revenue that Bumi earns probably goes as levies paid to the government. So we are left with 55% of the gross revenue to manage our business. So yes, it has impacted profit.
Okay.
But at the same time, the fuel prices are very high. Our consumption of diesel is roughly 30 to 33% of our production cash cost. So those have also added to the burden on costs for us.
Right.
From our side, we are taking as many steps as we can on cost optimization and reduction across the board.